I'm really happy to be sharing these poems with you this afternoon. I can't think of a group of women I would prefer to be reading to. And I'm also so happy to know that this is going to Ellen Kuzwayo and to Joy Soweto and to the other women of South Africa, because there are poems here that are particular and special for me and for them also. Echoes. You know, these poems that I'm about to read are all from my new book, The Marvelous Arithmetics of Distance. And this book, really, all of the poems in it deal with the different ways that we have of seeing things depending on where we are standing, how distance alters our perception so radically. The title of the first is Echoes, and this is the poem that I was speaking to you about. There is a timbre of voice that comes from not being heard and knowing you are not being heard, which is noticed only by others not being heard for the same reason. The flavor of midnight fruit, tongue calling your body through dark light, piercing the allure of safety, ripping the glitter of silence around you. Dazzle me with color, and perhaps I won't notice till after you're gone. And your hot grain smell tattooed into each new poem, resonant beyond escape. I am listening in that fine space between desire and always, the grave stillness before choice. As my tongue unravels, in what pitch will the scream hang unsung, or shiver like lace on the borders of never recording which dreams heal, which dream can kill? Stabbing a man, burning his body for cover, being caught, making love to a woman I do not know. The next two poems are poems that came out of the time that Gloria and I spent in the south of France with the woman from South Africa. And the first one is called Party Time. I need to explain a little bit to you about one reference in here. I speak of broken potsherds, and in West Africa, broken potsherds are left on a woman's hearthstone as a sign that one of her sons did not survive an initiation ritual, and therefore that he will not return. And Eleanor Bumpers is the name of a woman who was killed in her house, a 67-year-old black grandmother who was shot down in the Bronx a few years ago because she refused to let people come into her house by police. So the title of this is Party Time. Newspapers printed in secret report the bent needles under the child's fingernail, barbed stitches through the bleeding scalp, the grandchildren playing hide and seek riddled with bullets behind a silk cotton tree, 2 more funerals in Soweto, Behind the small coffins, Lillian's son-in-law drags his feet, Achilles' tendons shredded by police dogs, festering. In their eyes, each memory of home, poised over potsherds in the dawn. But who sings the songs of my mother's muscled beauty? These large, sore-footed women with nimble tongues, gnarled ankles stepping to an elegant rhythm, arms akimbo in quick march time, rocking with laughter, and the young ones strut without illusion, their weathered, extreme bodies blossoming in the singing night. Lillian's hooded eyes invite me into the circle, a strum of voices weaving an intricate drum. Over grape juice in South Provence, the women from South Africa lower their voices, discussing rent and who has not yet paid, a protest punishable by death, burning through the Mofilo night. Eleanor Bumper's grandmother, shotgunned against her kitchen wall by the rent marshals in the Bronx, moves back and forth among us, humming. Her breath is sweet acacia in this stone yard at sunset. Rhythms quicken, and I come next behind her in our dance. Prism, and this poem is for Joyce Soweto, who asked me that night to write a poem for them. There are no frogs in Soweto. Students croak Gamandla through the tear gas. Not true, no frogs live in Soweto, only we are too weary with no ears left to hear them. Who knows where frogs live in Soweto? Who has time to listen? Stroll along a moonlit gutter beyond the flames of evening, rising, falling, the thin, high screams of skewered children. But in the bruising fist of challenge, the future does not tarry. Take our words to bed with you. Dream upon them. Choose any ones you wish. Write us a poem. Write us a poem. Now, I really want some feedback about this poem because it's a dream and I feel different ways about it at different times. The title of it is 1984, which, if you remember, was George Orwell's magical time of the future. This was in fact a dream I had on April the 4th. And April the 4th, as you may also know, is the anniversary of Martin Luther King's assassination. On April the 4th, I dreamt I became president. Here I was, finally in a position to do it all right. The air was frantic with endless detail. Hotel rooms too small, too old, too few. the staff not acting right, goofing off on the job, the Secretary of State resigning. I need someone to manage the White House. The person I'd asked to come do it doesn't want to work for another black woman. What shall I wear to the ball? Decide about the cost of living, foreign policy, the ozone layer. I'm going to read poetry at my inauguration. Francis and I are in the limousine. The Secret Service men are driving behind us. I discover I've forgotten my poems. We turn back. In the car these days is the only time Francis and I get a chance to be together. But one good thing about being president is we don't have to stop for red lights. Another good thing is neither of us has to drive, so we can relax together in the back seat, even neck if we want to. And nobody can say a thing about our being lesbians because I am president now. Yeah, we try to do our best, don't we? It was quite a dream. Okay. Now, this poem, I think, belongs to all of you. I wrote it just about a year ago here in Berlin. I wrote it, well, today's the 19th. I wrote it on the 18th. No, today's the 20th, September the 20th. I wrote this on September the 18th, 1991, and that was the anniversary, the second anniversary of the morning after Hugo, the hurricane. So the title of this poem is Restoration, a Memorial, September the 18th, 1991. Berlin again. After chemotherapy, I reach behind me once more for days to come. Sweeping around the edges of authenticity 2 years after Hugo blew one life away. Death like a burned star perched on the rim of my teacup, flaming the honey drips from my spoon, sunlight flouncing off the gargoyles opposite. The morning after, even foresight cannot penetrate this net of rain and relief. Our place forever altered. I finger through the shards left after the storm. Somewhere it is Tuesday in the ordinary world. Ravishment fades into the compelling tasks our bodies learn to perform. Quite a lot of our house is left, the bedroom spared, except for the ankle-deep water and the terrible stench. Would I exchange this safety of exile for the muddy hand-drawn waters, relieving ourselves behind the tantan bush, half-rotten vegetables, the antique gray settling over your face that October? I want you laughing again after the stinking rugs are cut up and dragged away, after the crystal chandelier is dug out of the living room floor, the refrigerator righted, the broken cupboards stacked in piles outside to dry for the evening fire. A few trees still stand in our brand new landscape, but the sea road is still impassable. We gather coconuts galore from the newly carved beach. We stash them behind the wash buckets where our front porch had been. Your red shirt hung out on a bush to dry is the only flower for weeks. No escape, no return, and no other life half so sane. In this alien and temporary haven, my poisoned fingers slowly return to normal. I read your letter, dreaming the perspective of a bluefish or a fugitive parrot. I watch the chemicals leaving my nails as my skin takes back its weaknesses, and I learn to laugh again. This is another Berlin poem. I wrote this 1989, December 1989. It's called East Berlin, December 1989. It feels dangerous now to be black in Berlin. The sad suicides that never got reported, Neukölln, Kreuzberg, the Neon Zoo, a new siege along Unter den Linden with Paris accents, New York hustle, so many tattered visions intersecting. Already my blood shrieks through the East Berlin streets, misplaced hatred, volcanic tallies rung upon cement. Afro-German woman stomped to death by skinheads in Alexanderplatz. 2-year-old girls half cooked on their camp cots. Who pays the price for their disillusion? Handheld, the candles wink in Berlin's scant November light. Hitting the wall at 30 miles an hour, vision first, is still hitting a wall. And on the other side, a rank dream, where dreams, a rank chasm, where dreams of laurels lie, hollowness wed to triumph, differing only from defeat, only in the approaching tasks. And the last two poems that I wanted to share with you are the last two poems in this book, which I love very much. And appropriately, the sun comes out because they feel to me great affirmations. Both of these poems feel like very, very strong affirmations for me. The night blooming cereus is jasmine, that sweet, sweet smelling jasmine. Well, it blooms at night in the Virgin Islands, and there's a flower very, very similar to it, almost indistinguishable from it, which is called also the night blooming cereus. It's very, very sweet. It's very hard to find because it's very inconspicuous, but the smell of it is just overpowering. And we call it Lady of the Night, the night blooming cereus. Lady of the Night, star-breathed, blooms along the sea road between my house and the tasks before me, calls down a flute carved from the leg bone of a gull. Through the core of me, a fine rigged wire upon which pain will not falter, nor predict. I was no stranger to this arena at high noon. Beyond was not an enemy to be avoided, but a challenge against which my neck grew strong, against which my mettle struck, and I rang like fire in the sun. I still patrol that line, sword drawn, lighting red glazed candles of petition along the scar, the surest way of knowing death is a fractured border through the center of my days imagination dare not cross. Bees seek their need until flowers beckon beyond the limit of their wings. Then they drop where they fly, the luscious pollen baskets laden, the sweet work done. They do not know the lady of the night blossoms between my house and the sea road, calling down a flute carved from the leg bone of a gull, your rich voice riding the shadows of conquering air. And this, which is my declaration of life. Today is not the day. Well, I can't just sit here staring death in her face, blinking and asking for a new name with which to greet her. I am not afraid to say, unembellished, I am dying. But I do not want to do it while looking the other way. Today is not the day. It could be, but it is not. Today is today. In the early moving morning, sun shining down upon the farmhouse in my belly, lighting the well-swept alleys of this town, growing in my liver, intricate vessels swelling with the gift of Mother Mahu and her mischievous daughter, Aphrodite. Aphrodite, Aphrodite, my beloved, feel the sun of my days surround you, binding our pathways. We have water to carry, honey to harvest, bright seed to plant for the next fair. We will linger to exchange sweet oil along each other's ashy legs. The evening light crests on your cheekbones. By this rising, some piece of our labor is already half done. The taste of loving, doing a bit of work, having some fun, riding my wheels so close to the edge my eyelashes blaze. Beth dangles her stethoscope over the rearview mirror. Jonathan fine-tunes his fix on Orion, working through another equation. Youth, taut as an arrow, stretched to their borders. The barb sinking so far it vanishes from the surface. I dare not tremble for them, only pray laughter comes often enough to soften the edge. And Gloria, Gloria, whose difference I learn with the love of a sister, you in my eyes' bright appetite, light playing along your muscle as you swing. This could be the day. I could slip anchor and wander to the end of the jetty, uncoil into the waters a vessel of light, moon-glade, ride the freshets to sundown, and when I am gone, another stranger will find you coiled on the warm sand, beached treasure, and love you for the different stories your seas tell. And the half-finished blossoms growing out of my season trail behind with a comforting hum. But today is not the day. Today. There, that is for you. I'm so really, really pleased to be doing this. I'm sorry my voice is not better today, but I hope you could hear it, and I hope you could hear the love with which I share these. I'm really sorry it didn't come across better.